Nearly a week after she failed spectacularly to remove Republican Speaker Mike Johnson from his position, MAGA cultist Marjorie Taylor Greene desperately tried to save face during a recent interview with Fox propagandist Maria Bartiromo, and we have to talk about it. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bell before you go. I'd greatly appreciate it. All right, friends, we have several clips to look at in this video. Marjorie Taylor Greene effectively went inactive for like 5 or 6 days, and they were relatively peaceful. But she is back in the mainstream media circuit. She went on Fox News and was interviewed by Maria Bartiromo. And again, this is about a week after she failed spectacularly to remove Mike Johnson, her current rival. And she does two things in this interview. Marjorie Taylor Greene tries to defend her decision to kick Johnson out of his position, which again, failed spectacularly, while also, rejecting the idea that she's trying to stir chaos in the Republican conference and that really this was just a first draft. And, Donald Trump is even signaling that he might want to remove Mike Johnson in the future. So again, she's trying to do all of these things at once. Let's play some of the clips and we'll unpack them together.
And you have been unable to secure the border, you meaning Republicans. You have also been unapologetic about trying to take down Speaker Mike Johnson. Your motion failed last week. You're being criticized, Congressman, because of the timing. We're 6 months away from an election and you are, quote, creating disruption. What do you want to say to those people who are criticizing you for these efforts?
Thank you very much for that question. The disruption, the chaos, and the drama is in American people's lives. My friends aren't rich billionaires like many of the donors that my colleagues only listen to. My friends and family are regular people, and my constituents are regular people that are sick and tired of being kicked in the teeth every single day by the stupid decisions in Washington, D.C. Our wide open border is the only border we should be focused on. Also, I asked Mike Johnson this week, I said, look, if you'll defund Jack Smith, then I'll reconsider this motion to vacate. And he told Playbook last week, no, he will not defund Jack Smith. The weaponized government is one of the most terrifying things we're seeing. President Trump is being prosecuted not only by Biden's Department of Justice, he's being prosecuted by radical DAs that are funded by George Soros in multiple states. And this is something the American people are sick and tired of. They're fed up with Republicans that will not defend President Trump. And that started all the way back with special counsel Robert Mueller. So when I asked Mike Johnson, I said, defund Jack Smith and the special counsel. Special counsels have only been around for 25 years, Maria. They're not baked in our Constitution. And our Republican Party, if we want to own the majority coming in January 2025, we need to prove to the American people that we're worth their vote.
Well, you've said repeatedly that you're not worth their vote. I mean, Marjorie Taylor Greene has publicly said that the Republican Party has been just a giant disaster. And it's not just Marjorie Taylor Greene, for that matter. Another crazy MAGA cultist, Lauren Boebert, also said something to that effect quite recently. So I quickly want to play this clip to just drive it home.
It has not been an exciting and productive year for Republicans being in the House majority.
It's true. This is the least productive iteration of Congress, and it's on track to become the least productive iteration of Congress since the Civil War. And all of that is due to the Republican majority. Prior to that, when Democrats were in control, even in divided government when Donald Trump was president, Congress was just more productive because Democrats understand how to govern objectively infinitely better than the modern Republican Party. So, and Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, and others have said that too, that Republicans are just not good at wielding power. They're not good at governing, and you shouldn't vote for them. I mean, she has repeatedly said that the GOP sucks, and I agree. And hopefully voters take that into account coming in November. But it's also true, I'll point out, that Mike Johnson has said that he will not attempt to defund Special Counsel Jack Smith, nor should he, by the way. And the federal funding for the Department of Justice and the federal government is ongoing until September. So I think his next opportunity to even make a move like that would be right before the election. And I don't think the American people want the DOJ to be defunded in order for them to protect their cult leader, Donald Trump. The polls do not suggest that the American people don't want Donald Trump to face accountability for his crimes. He has no basis for that support. Donald Trump has been credibly accused of committing crimes by grand juries of Americans in 4 different locations, so Georgia, New York, Washington, D.C., and Florida. And those grand juries of everyday Americans have been presented with the evidence, and they say, yeah, Donald Trump, it looks like Donald Trump's committed crimes, and these are the crimes he's committed, and you should prosecute. So again, it's just a cult-like mentality. But it's funny to see that Marjorie Taylor Greene is basically admitting, which we talked about in one of the more recent videos on the subject, that she was backing away from her threat. She was backing down. She felt sufficiently cowed. But we've got some more clips to play as well.
Eliminate the special counsel. Look, people are trying to figure out where is the crime that President Trump committed as he sits in that Manhattan courtroom all day. Why do you think Mike Johnson won't defund Jack Smith?
Well, Mike Johnson's owned by the Democrats, and that proved me to be right again. When I called the motion to vacate, it wasn't Republicans that saved Mike Johnson. It was Democrats that saved Mike Johnson. And when you have Nancy Pelosi, who was Speaker of the House when they impeached President Trump twice, and you have Jerry Nadler, who was chairman of the Judiciary Committee that led the impeachment against President Trump, voting to save Mike Johnson, that tells the American people everything that they need to know. Mike Johnson is owned by the Democrats and refuses to protect President Trump, even though he runs down to Mar-a-Lago every chance he gets and hugs him as tightly as possible.
Now, I will say Marjorie Taylor Greene is correct there that Mike Johnson does desperately, like a weak, frail person. He constantly skitters under, Donald Trump's shadow to seek his protection very often. That is true. But again, her issue is that Mike Johnson is not sufficiently cultishly devoted to Trump, even though I would argue he's pretty cultishly devoted to Trump. But it's pathetic. That's because the GOP is effectively an authoritarian cult of personality. They have no policy preferences. They have no affirmative agenda. I mean, in the first clip, Maria Bartiromo points out that Republicans have left the border open, which is true, and they've done nothing about the situation at the border. I should say they have done nothing about the situation at the southern border. It's not true to say that the southern border is open because right now the Biden administration is interdicting drugs. They are interdicting illegal contacts. Undocumented contacts at the border. They are deporting people in record numbers. So to the extent that, Republicans want more deportations and more arrests, they are happening under the Biden administration. And it is relatively conservative. And they also had a relatively conservative bipartisan border bill that was negotiated by Republicans and Democrats. And Democrats made enormous concessions at the southern border. And Donald Trump killed the bill for cynical political purposes. And Marjorie Taylor Greene is once again trying to flip that on the Democrats. But the truth is, that was the Republicans' fault. And even Republicans like Mitch McConnell and Lindsey Graham have publicly admitted that. It's because of Donald Trump. So Marjorie Taylor Greene owns this issue to the extent that conservative legislation would have ever solved the issue, which I'm skeptical on. But I digress. I'll also point out this idea that Johnson is owned by the Democrats. It's just not true. And that it was Democrats who saved Johnson. If you really want to get reductive, I mean, more Democrats voted to save Johnson from Marjorie Taylor Greene. More Republicans did than Democrats. It was 196 Republicans who voted to save Johnson compared to 163 Democrats. Still a lot of Democrats, to be sure, the vast majority of them. But it was mostly Republicans who saved Johnson. Marjorie Taylor Greene wants you to believe that actually Republicans hate Johnson. And it's actually Democrats who want Johnson saved. And if Republicans had it their way, Johnson would be out on his ass. But that's not true. There's no basis for it. And Johnson, if he is in the pocket of the Democrats, is the worst Democratic plant we could possibly have because he has been a colossal impediment. He kicked the can down the road with respect to federal funding. He has allowed a formal impeachment inquiry, a baseless formal impeachment inquiry into President Biden to persist. He's done nothing to work bipartisanly with Democrats on common sense issues, which are widely popular. If he is the best that we Democrats can do, or if he is the plant, the Democratic controlled puppet that Marjorie Taylor Greene pretends he is, my God, we don't know what we're doing. I'll also point out that Marjorie Taylor Greene wants everybody to remember that, hey, Donald Trump has signaled that though the time isn't right, he may want to stab Mike Johnson in the back in the future. This is worth noting.
And I just spoke with President Trump yesterday about this. And while he says now is not the time, I'm going to be listening to him. But he also said, and he said it in his statement publicly, that it may happen, that the time may come. So even though if I wanted to do it again this week, the Democrats have already stepped in and saved Johnson. But again, I'll reiterate this, Maria, and the most important thing everyone needs to know is the people want a Republican Party that will fight.
People want a Republican Party that will try to work for common sense solutions, which means they don't want the Republican Party, which is why, typically speaking, more people vote for Democrats than Republicans. They certainly don't want this version of the Republican Party, which is why you all are favored to lose the House of Representatives, which is why your razor-thin majority is ever shrinking. They want a fundamentally different Republican Party. At best, the best you could argue potentially is that there's a huge chunk of Americans that want a principled conservative political party to serve as some sort of brake check on progressivism. And that's me being very generous, right? But the fact of the matter is that progressive policies or liberal policies or whatever, not conservative policies, tend to be much more popular, right? So people want the rich to be taxed more than the middle and lower class. They want a progressive tax policy. They want increased health care. They want lowered prescription drugs. They want, issues of climate change to be addressed. They want expanded voting rights. They want robust infrastructure. They want an economy that works for as many people as possible. They want abortion rights. So just like the idea that people are secretly on the side of Republicans and it's just Mike Johnson and the Uniparty getting in the way, this stuff is absolutely nuts, right? There's no basis for this in reality. But Marjorie Taylor Greene's never been much for reality to begin with. The last clip I'll play is this one here, in which she reiterates that there is a threat in her mind. There is a threat electorally to Republicans if they continue to not fight. And again, I don't even know what that means. They have no leverage with which to fight. They barely control one chamber of one branch of government. But in her mind, Marjorie Taylor Greene thinks Republicans will lose unless they do more stunts like hers.
But if we're going to be a Republican conference that can actually deliver President Trump's agenda, then we need to get in shape and be prepared to do that. And while the election is only 6 months away, we aren't ready. And our voters know it, Maria. Our voters know it. They're saying they're going to skip representatives' names on the ballot. They're going to vote for President Trump, but they're going to skip our names. And that's the most dangerous position to be in.
That'd be hilarious if that's the case. I mean, again, because we talk about the election and most of us refer only to the presidential election, which obviously that's the single most important office, to be sure. But it is important for Democrats to win every possible election down ballot as well, for senator, for representative, gubernatorial races, state representatives as well. So like intrastate elections as well. Democrats need to win every election. Republicans need to lose every election because, again, it's an authoritarian, fascistic cult of personality with no limiting principle. And the policies for which they advocate are wildly unpopular, even if they're very, very good at messaging. Because, again, they're just not interested in responsibly governing. So I hope Marjorie Taylor Greene is right in the sense that Republicans, she's being told by her constituents, who are being honest, I hope, assuming this is happening, that they don't intend to vote for Republicans in the upcoming election because of X, Y, and Z. Now, I would argue it's because of the incompetence, dysfunction, lack of meaningful bipartisan cooperation with the Democrats. She can pretend that the root cause is whatever she needs to. I don't care, but I hope the conclusion is correct, which is that people will not turn up to vote Republican in the upcoming election, even if they will turn up to vote for Trump, and hopefully he'll lose as well. Let me know what you think in the comments.